I'm going to explain what's going on with the Voting Rights Act in the Supreme Court. And this is something that you haven't heard from other creators. As you know, I'm heavily and deeply involved in the legal system, and I've taught myself basically to be an appellate attorney in the past 3 years. And so my knowledge is coming from research and education about the Constitution, constitutional rights, and these various acts and how to read them and understand what's going on, how judges and courts work. The Constitution says that you can't base voting parameters, you can't base the way that we vote, you can't base districting and things on race. And that was established so that to avoid racism. You can't say, hey, we're going to, purposely redistrict in a way that benefits or profits white people. That's what it was meant for. However, that's exactly what they're doing, but they're just not saying that it's about race. They do it under a different guise for all kinds of various different reasons. They do it. The Voting Rights Act specifically addresses that by saying, hey, you are attacking, you are excluding, you are deprioritizing and minimalizing the voices of Black and Latino non-white communities and areas that should have more weight in this process. They're redistricting in a way that disadvantages them. Now here's what's fucked up. Because the Voting Rights Act specifically says that they are doing this because of racism, the Voting Rights Act is in fact in opposition of the Constitution, where it says you cannot do anything based on race. The Oranges figured that out, and that's what they're arguing. That's why the Supreme Court keeps ruling against the Voting Rights Act, because technically, and I don't like this, I support the Voting Rights Act, absolutely. Because of what the Constitution says, and because the Voting Rights Act is about race, it is unconstitutional. And that's why the Supreme Court is saying that it is. It's not their job to amend the Constitution. The Constitution should have been amended instead of making the Voting Rights Act. They should have amended it and fixed it. And now we don't have that opportunity because the Oranges are in charge. And so the Voting Rights Act is going to be made obsolete. It's going to be destroyed. There might be parts that remain, but there's no state that's now that the Supreme Court is going to say, okay, well, here you can do it. They've twice now ruled that it was unconstitutional. That doesn't mean it's ethical. That doesn't mean it's right. But it is, in fact, against the wording of the Constitution. I think it's only Justice Ketanji Brown who's in opposition, saying that shouldn't matter, who's saying that there's ways around it, and she's right. And if this was a different Supreme Court, they would find ways around it. They would find ways to, it's all about how you interpret the law. The courts have to interpret the law. And what they're doing is interpreting it based strictly on the wording of the Constitution, saying, well, if we can't be racist against Black people, we can't be racist at all. We can't look at race at all. So unfortunately, we are going to lose every battle when it comes to the Voting Rights Act, in my opinion. And we're going to have to fight harder than we are to counteract what they're doing, because they're getting seats right and left, redistricting, shooting down districting that was based on the Voting Rights Act. This is a real fight, and I don't think we're working hard enough to stop it.